In this tutorial, I'm going to talk about using audio associated with video. Now, almost all video that you shoot has audio associated with it. About the only exception to that will be if you buy some stock footage, and typically stock footage does not have audio associated with it. But generally, when you work with video, there's audio there too. And usually when you work with video, you work with a video editing program like Adobe Premiere Pro. And Premiere Pro has plenty of audio editing tools in it. You might not even need to use Audition, but frequently there are several sort of higher level audio editing things that you want to do. And when you do want to do those, you do them inside Audition. And the workflow with Premiere Pro typically is to use Adobe Dynamic Link Media Server from within Premiere Pro to go to Audition, do your work, and come back to Premiere Pro. Now I'm going to discuss that workflow much later in these Audition tutorials. For this tutorial, I want to talk about working specifically inside Audition with video files that have audio associated with them. So to make sure the video that we're going to work with will work inside whichever version of Audition you have, be it the standalone or from a suite, we're going to work with an MPEG-4 file. And to see that MPEG-4 file, it's best to use the media browser. And if you watch the media browser tutorial using the media browser, you know about shortcuts. If not, you might want to go back to that one. I have some shortcuts here for the demo files folder, and inside the demo files folder there's this video file, an AVCHD file, which has an MTS extension. I'm going to spread this out a little bit so you can see more of it a little bit, and I'm going to slide this guy to the right a little bit. You'll see the length is 14.5 seconds. Here it's 14 seconds and 15 frames, so it's 14.5 seconds. And if I go down, it's audio video, and it's 48,000 samples per second for the audio portion, stereo, 32-bit floating point for the audio. And then farther down here, it says it's 1920 by 1080, that's full HD, and it's MPEG-4. So this guy should work inside Audition, whichever version you have. Now I could right-click on this thing and say Insert into Multitrack, and that actually is what we're going to do eventually, but I want to show you the intermediary steps so you can see what happens internally when you bring a video file that has audio associated with it into Audition. So I'm just going to drag this up to the Files panel, and when that happens, watch this. It goes from one file to two. What's going on? Well, here's the original video file, and it still has its original audio in it, so we're not touching the original audio inside this video file. But Audition splits off the audio and creates a separate file of just the audio, puts that audio inside a temporary folder as a temporary file, and notice that it has an asterisk after it. The asterisk means that if you don't save it, this little puppy is going to go away, at least in this particular case when it's a temporary file. So here it is, a separate audio file with the video associated with it. So if I want to see that video, maybe I should double click on it, right? But if I do that, I get this error message saying that it contains only video, cannot be edited. To view the video, you've got to insert the file into a multi-track session. So that's the deal. If you want to see the video and the audio together, you need to open them up in a multi-track session. If I double click the audio, there is the audio, but there's no video. Even if I lift up this panel, the video panel up here, and click on video, empty. So to be able to see the video, I need to put these guys into a multi-track session. So I need to select both of the files. To do that, you can click on one and control click or command click on the other one. That's one way to select two files. Or I can click on one and shift click on one. That's the way to select files that are touching each other, contiguous files. I'm showing you a couple shortcuts here. You can marquee select, drag like that to marquee select. Another shortcut is Control or Command A, which selects all. Control A stands for all, Command A. Anyway, that's how we select those two guys. I'm going to right click now and say Insert into Multitrack, a new multi-track session. I think you should put any work you do now inside your Audition exercise files. That's where I'm going to put this guy. I'm going to call this thing a video test. We have a new multi-track session called video test, and it matches the sample rate and bit depth of the audio here already. Click OK. And here is our multi-track session. Let me slide this over so you have a kind of a better view of it. Notice that the video shows up right here inside the video panel. And here is the video track inside the multi-track session with that separate audio track down here. And what's interesting here is that if I take another video and want to add it to this multi-track session, let's say after this one, it won't let me do it. You can only have one video file associated with a multi-track session. So now, if I move my current time indicator, you'll see that the audio and the video are working together here inside the multi-track session. What's kind of cool is if you just open this file by itself, unlike before, now because we have it in a multi-track session, the video will stay here and it will display as we drag through the audio. So now let's say I want to do some editing here. Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that the time code up here is frames. And I've already switched to that, but let me show you how to do that. I right click, say time display. I want to shift to whatever the time code is for this video. And SMPTE 2997 frames per second drop frame method is the typical what's called NTSC, that's the North American and Japan standard for video code. So it's 2997, basically 30 frames per second with what's called the drop frame. So that's the standard one, so I selected that. And now I have snapping. We've talked about snapping before, but now we're talking about snapping with frames. So I go over to snapping, and I've got snap to frames turned on. So as I drag through here, it'll snap to these little frames as I go by. And if I zoom in, these are individual frames here now. As I drag along here, you'll see it snap, 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 like that. So snapping to frames is helpful when you're working with video because you typically want to make your audio edits on the frame level. But again, it's also okay to make audio edits on the sample level or on the decimal time code level, whatever one you want to do. But this is kind of helpful to kind of keep it connected to the video. You can switch this back and forth as you wish. Now, what happens if I edit something? Let's just say I'm going to zoom out here to full, and I've got a left channel here and a right channel here. And the left channel is the audio that I recorded when I shot this video. And I had one microphone attached to this channel on the camcorder. And I did not have a microphone connected to the other channel on the camcorder. And when we bring this guy in, it comes in as a stereo file, even though it was two mono channels when I recorded it. So the quick way to do some editing here is to, let's say, select the left channel in this case. So I've got my context sensitive channel editor, so I'll just double click here to select that area. I'll go Control or Command C to copy it. And now I'm going to go down here and make sure my current time indicator is at the beginning. I'll go Control or Command V to paste it. I'll get a message now saying, you're now dramatically changing. You're adding audio to a file that's in a multi-track session, and that may change the length of the multi-track session. In this case, it won't because I carefully put the current time indicator at the beginning, and this little file that I'm going to put down here will match, or the audio will match the length, so it's okay. But this is a good reminder, and I'm not going to click this button. I want to see this again if something comes up again. So I'll click OK. Yeah, I know that. Thanks very much for letting me know. And there is the new thing added to it. And so I've now edited this thing. I've made a change to it. I might also want to increase the volume, something like that. There we go. So I'll do that. Now I've made even more changes to it. So to make sure that I can access this audio later, I'm going to now save it. So I would click on that. I'd go File, Save, and it'll give me options as to what kind of format to use, but I'll take the default option here. And I would save it to wherever my video was stored so that it would be, sitting next to this video file so that I could access this audio later when I work inside a video editing software. I could use this audio to replace the existing audio. I could just cover it up on whatever audio track that audio is residing on. I could use this one instead of the audio associated with the original video clip. So that, in a nutshell, is how you deal with audio associated with video files here inside Audition.